Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Padres, but also the Locked On A's podcast as well. That's right, it is a Locked On crossover event for Friday. Friday. Yes, Friday, October 29th, as my computer almost falls to its doom. I, as always, am your host with sometimes, occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You might be familiar with some of my baseball-related work at places like Baseball FYI, Friars on Base, Off the Bench Baseball, or Just Baseball. You can check me out on Twitter at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO, or at LO_Padres for memes and stuff about the Padres, which I do have both accounts. But like I said, it is a special crossover edition. I'm being joined by Mr. Jason Burke, the host, and good buddy of mine over at Locked On A. How are you doing?
Terrible. How are you doing, Javi? I'm only on other people's shows for bad reasons, and this is not a great one. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about today.
Hey, man, flip the script. If anyone can see it, can you see my shirt? Here we go. Flip the script. That's what it says. Shirt. If you're watching the YouTube, go check that out. Locked On Padres and Locked On A's on YouTube.
I am wearing a Christmas sweater.
Oh, look at it. That's so cute. I like that one. I need a Christmas Padres one. Yeah, I need a Christmas Padres one, especially with the season coming up. Guys, as always, thank you for making Locked On Padres and Locked On A's your hashtag first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. And for today's show, why is Jason on? Why? I mean, anyone who's following baseball at all for the past, it'll be like 10 or so hours or what have you. The big news dropped. We've been waiting for it for a little bit.
No, we haven't.
Managers meetings are coming up.
We have not been waiting for this.
Well, the Padres fans have been waiting for someone to come in.
Okay, then yes. We were saying, in that regard, yes.
They've been waiting for someone, and that happened yesterday. It was by AJ Casaval of MLB.com that the Padres had acquired, whatever terminology you want to use, their new manager following the departure / firing. It was a firing of Jace Tingler. It is Bob Melvin, the manager, the highly respected, I think is a word I'll go with. Bob Melvin of your team, the Oakland A's. So we got a lot to talk about. That's what today's episode is about, because it really made waves. Because what's funny is, yes, the Padres were searching for a new manager, and we could talk about how you actually had predicted on one of your shows saying that they could be in play for Bob Melvin, but there was a lot of names thrown out there. I mean, I did an episode on everybody from Mike Schilt, who got fired very unceremoniously / let go despite the great run they had. Then you had Mike Scioscia was brought into the conversation, back from Angels fame, which I just talked with Steve Granado about the other day. You could check that out. Then we had Ozzie Guillen's name getting flown out there. We had Bruce Bochy. We had Buck Showalter. We had Rod Washington. And then the guy that never was reported even once by Padres as someone that they talked to, Bob Melvin, who had signed, or what was it that they did with him?
They picked up his option, and it seemed like that's because Bob Melvin wanted them to pick it up. So it was always up to Bob Melvin whether or not that option would be exercised. They did exercise it like in June, and it looked like, he's going to be around for one more year, and then we'll see what happens from there. But apparently things have changed. Maybe that is a harbinger of things to come for the A's this offseason. Some people are saying it's because of money. He's not making enough money for it to be like, oh, we're just slashing payroll. But they could end up slashing payroll. So it could be a harbinger of things to come, and I am so excited for future A seasons.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing is, you just said like, oh, I don't think it's, but I mean, I don't think you can ever underestimate the A's ability to want to just cut prices constantly. You know what I'm saying? It could be this is the same team that, was worried about trading for Trevor Story because they didn't want to pay him for one half a season, actually. So like, that's the same team we're dealing with here.
Well, I do want to argue on one word, and you said cutting prices. They are raising prices. They are cutting costs.
Yes.
That is the difference.
Okay. No, you're right. I gotta get that. They
almost doubled season ticket prices for 2022. It is absolutely bonkers out here in the Bay Area right now.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough time indeed. But like, I guess, is that basically what your first reaction was? Because I imagine that mine was just, Look, I was literally just hanging out with my mom. We're finishing up. I've seen it before already, but rewatching Loki because she really wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
Really loved that show.
Great show. Great show.
Yeah, really loved that show. I don't know how that was the one show, semi-spoiler alert, that nailed romance out of all the MCU stuff. I don't know how that's the only one that ever did it, right? That doesn't make any sense to me, but Disney, I guess you could say, is very weird. But it's kind of beautiful that that's the one that made it work. And then I just get these alerts because I left my phone alone for a second, like a real human being, trying to enjoy life and all that it has to offer. And all of a sudden, everyone's freaking out. I got a couple texts and people were like, what the heck? Bob Melvin, he's going to the A's. What were you, or going to the Padres from the A's? What were you doing when the announcement first dropped?
I had gotten off of work and I was taking a 30-minute nap. And then my alarm went off and I was like, crap. So that was fun.
Oh, no.
So that's what I had my alerts off. The alarm went off. So I woke up when I was supposed to. It didn't wake me up. But it's a good thing that I had my alarm set for when I did, because I got to it like 2 minutes after it happened. And I put up the video on YouTube, our Locked On Now. That was fun. It wasn't fun to make, but it was fun that I was like, I was on top of this. That was cool. And as you mentioned before, I did kind of predict this a little while ago. I think it was 2-3 weeks ago. There was all those rumors swirling. Ken Rosenthal had mentioned that the duo of Billy Beane and Bob Melvin could be a great pairing for the Mets. And he didn't say that they were definitely going, but it definitely, when Ken Rosenthal reports something, he's not speculating a lot. There's usually some sort of a rumor. And I was like, I don't think that that's the match. Because
be careful to say Ken Rosenthal's name to the Padres fans.
You got to go all the way across the country. That Bob Melvin grew up in the Bay Area. He has roots here. Billy Beane's been here for over 2 decades now. He has roots here. They have families. Moving them across the country doesn't make sense. What does make sense to me is that, and I think Jace Tingler had just gotten fired. And I said, the Padres are the team that scares me. If Bob Melvin is going anywhere, it's probably to the Padres, because who wouldn't want to go manage the San Diego Padres? They look like a fun team. The A's might be in contention for one more season, but the Padres got a future, and he would be a great guy to have over there. So the Padres were the team that scared me, and the Padres, ultimately took my manager away. So that was me calling it, and I think that's as close as you can do, as close as you can get to calling it without saying he's going there. So that was my claim to fame, I guess.
Hey, I mean, look, not everybody can be Sully Baseball over at Locked On MLB calling no hitters and stuff. I mean, that guy is Nostra Sullivan. You know what I mean? Like he's just unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, it's genuinely just kind of one of those things where I agree with you, where it was like, when I heard those rumors too, I was like, all right, Mets fans. You know what I mean? I was like, all right, guys.
Well, it's because the New York media will always be like, hey, who are the best people out there? We're definitely getting one of these 3. I'm like, David Stearns they're not going to give permission, because the Milwaukee Brewers need David Stearns. They're not going to allow him to talk. Theo Epstein's enjoying being off. He's only going to come out of retirement for the perfect situation where the Mets going to give him everything that he wanted. Does he need to prove anything to the New York fan base? No. And then Billy Beane's been doing this. I think that maybe if he wanted to go work with Sandy Alderson like a lot and have some money, sure. But it's not like their owner is not a headache in his own right. At least he doesn't have to deal with the A's owner talking a bunch of crap about the team that is being assembled on the field constantly on Twitter. So if you're going crazy owner for crazy owner, may as well go with the one that you know, as opposed to going into a random situation, even though you get more money. And that's why I was like, I don't think Billy Beane's going anywhere. And he's not. He said no to the Mets. Maybe he's going somewhere else. But the Mets didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, you're right about the New York media thing. It's kind of like when Giannis, or not Giannis, when Kevin Durant was becoming a free agent the next year, and they were like, he's coming to the Knicks. It was like kind of presumed. And I'm like, we haven't had one sole reason aside from they have cap space and need a good player that he's going to go there. And then all of a sudden he goes to Brooklyn. And now I know that's
all you need. And if you're looking on, that's all you need. Because of the Bob Melvin news, you see all of the New York Yankees fans doing their paint jobs, their bad photoshops of Matt Olson and pinstripes now, because they need a first baseman. And so obviously the A's would trade him to the Yankees, right?
Yep.
And I've seen all the fake trade packages, and it's like, yeah, you guys get Luke Voit and then Domingo Herman, who was suspended for domestic abuse, and then I don't know, like Gio Urshela, he can't play a position, but those guys, that's a good package. I'm like, yeah, in a microcosm, that's a great package. That's not bad, but the baggage that comes along with them, and can they actually play? Are the A's actually trying to contend? There's a lot of other factors that go in there, and so I don't know that the Yankees and A's actually match up, but maybe they do, and we'll see, because they could definitely use somebody. Maybe they're going to send over Jason Dominguez, and I'd be probably okay with that. How did he do? Is he good?
I don't think anyone knows. And I think that look. I mean, you're right though. The fake mock trades is one of my favorite things that happens. It's like the guy in your fantasy football league or gal that's just like, hey, so I really want Cooper Kupp. I can give you Julio Jones, who's had one okay game this year, and then
lots
James
of upside
Conner out of Arizona. You know what I mean?
If he stays healthy, I mean, he's a really good player. You know what I'm
it's
saying?
One of those things. And it's like, I gave you two good players for one, man. And it's like all those things. But before we get into kind of like the specifics and stuff, Jason, before we get into specifics of Bob Melvin, who in fairness, people might not know who he is. Maybe we're being a little bit too baseball guys. You know what I mean? We're being a little bit too insider baseball is the term that's sometimes
insider baseball.
So insider baseball. You know what I mean?
Why let's talk about something. Local experts.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about something really quickly though that you don't need that much of a background into. You know what I mean? Because people who are exactly, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about, if you're watching the YouTube video, you just saw it. We are talking about the best protein bars, and not just San Diego, and not just New York, and not just Oakland, and not just the United States, but in the world, in the universe. They are, of course, the Built Bars, ladies and gentlemen. And what I love about them the most, and I know Jason can attest to this as well, great variety of flavors. He just showed one to his computer, which was great. They've got coconut, they've got cherry barcia, raspberry, double chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry, orange, cookies and cream German chocolate. If you are watching the YouTube, you can tell by looking at me, I am not above having all these different type of sweets and stuff and what have you. So, go check those out. But what I love about that also, on top of the fact that they also have new flavors coming out every 5 seconds, by the way, is that they're protein bars, which means they're healthy for you, which I very much appreciate. And just how healthy, guys. Let's check out the macros. 17 to 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams net carbs. Additional, amazing, all tasty, all healthy. They just get the job done, man. You know what I mean? They just really get the job done.
I gotta say.
Yeah, they're fantastic. So, guys, what are you waiting for? Go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Remember, that is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Jason, it's funny. I remember when I was doing that for a while, I kept saying Built Bar instead of built.com. So hopefully all those people that I kept sending to Built Bar, I assume that they were smart enough to understand Built was the website you go to, and that it popped up and whatnot. But hopefully I didn't send anyone to some weird website.
I hope that they also own that domain, so it just like redirects you. Is my hope, but
yeah, I imagine they do. I imagine they do too. To some
they
extent.
have to, right?
Yeah, you got it. I mean, that would just be a poor, because it was builtbar.com at one point. We've been praising these things for a long time to know. I mean, we're hardcore fans. But guys, of course, again, let me just reiterate. Thank you for making Locked On Padres and Locked On A's your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Jason, let's get into Bob Melvin. And since you are the Oakland A's guy, he's been with you for a long time. So I want to ask you, what can Padres fans, just simply put, what can they look forward to? Why is it that this was a trending story? You know what I mean? Why is it that this was such a big deal that I'm getting so many text messages, even though it's not like managers are usually making the waves in baseball? You know what I mean? So what is it that Padres fans should know?
He's a solid dude. That's really what it boils down to. He is a very well-respected person in baseball. He's going to give you the expectations, and then it's up to you to meet him. He's a great communicator, which was a big thing when he got hired over a decade ago. He knew you would know as a player when you would be in the lineup. And that was a big thing because, platooning was starting to become a thing back in like 2011 when he got hired. These are things that players love. Players love playing for Bob Melvin. We saw a bunch of guys. The two guys that I remember right off the top of my head were Tony Kemp and Chris Bassett. They both sent out just this is the best guy that I have ever played for tweets. Dallas Braden went on Instagram Live, had a lot of choice words for a lot of people. And he was basically saying, like, I am just upset that Bob Melvin is no longer going to be with the Oakland A's. This is a whole crap show and blah, blah, blah. But it's because everybody loves Bob Melvin. And I think that he's going to be, granted, I didn't watch all of the Padres games, but the sense that I got from Jace Tingler was he was good. He was fine. But the thing that I know from not being in the Padres weeds all the time was he didn't back up Fernando Tatis Jr. when he hit that grand slam on 3-0.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. And Bob Melvin is going to be there for his players. He would joke all the time about how Ramon Laureano, the firecracker that Ramon Laureano is, was always in his office just wanting to talk baseball and just pick his brain. And so he's always there for his players. He's going to stand up for his guys. And I think that he's going to do a hell of a job with the San Diego Padres. One nitpicky thing that some A's fans like to point out is that his bullpen management can be a little questionable at times, but as long as you got one guy that you rely on, like Yusmeiro Petit, and he can just go to that guy first out of the bullpen every game, then yeah, you'll be fine. Just have a Yusmeiro Petit. He's probably going to be on the Padres now because Bob Melvin loves him so much.
Hey, I mean, the Padres, their bullpen stepped back a bit in the second half, but they've got a little play of players there. And not to mention, Drew Pomeranz got hurt. They've got some decent relievers, so that's kind of nice. Guys. But yeah,
and
they got a couple
I
believe
too. Played under Bob Melvin when he was with the A's. I'm trying to remember when Pomeranz played for. Profar was there.
Profar, there we go.
Yeah, Mateo's a free agent, correct?
Yeah, I know that he got claimed,
but they were there.
Baltimore. Yeah, he was in Baltimore.
Crossed paths a little bit. And did you guys? Who's the reliever that you guys got from the Rays?
Emilio
I believe
Pagan?
It was. Yeah, is he still there?
Yeah, he's still there.
Yeah, he played under Bob Melvin for a year.
To the chagrin of Padres
fans. So yeah, there's been some decent crossover with some of these guys and Bob Melvin. So there's some familiarity there, I think. I do want to ask real quick before we get even deeper is, do you guys need any more outfielders?
So the problem, and this is what's so fascinating about the Padres, is like there's so many weird stopgap areas that they have. So like the infield, the left side of the infield's good. Then they have someone who I think my new bit this offseason is I won't name him on the podcast. I'm just gonna say the first baseman. I'll call him the Wizard of something like that. You get what I'm saying? Like I'll still use him in the headlines and stuff like that when I'm.
Maybe he hits a lot of ground balls.
Say the name anymore. My guest can say him. My guest can say the name, but we have that guy at first base. I'm wondering how much. What I love about the signing so much, kind of a little bit stopping on the kind of the next part of this segment that we were going to talk about, but like one of the things I like about the signing is that it's just kind of a sign that they're not just going to kind of, wilt away and they had a really bad second half and now they're just going to get some random guy and then do a couple little trades and maybe they sign Anthony Desclafani. No, it feels like it's a sign that they're like, no, we're going big game hunting. We're getting a guy that, I mean, I knew who Bob Melvin was, but I knew who he was even before I started caring about baseball just because I'd heard him like all across the league. Like a lot of people seem to like Bob Melvin, like a lot of respect for this guy. A little bit of that Dusty Baker sort of energy to him where it's just, I don't hear any bad words. Yeah. I don't hear like any bad words about the guy. And you know what? I like that. I talked about on my podcast how Ron Washington has a little bit of a checkered past, dare I say. So he's had some issues there, and I didn't know if that was the right vibe. Granted, I know that the Padres, they're not, other teams in this sport that have had a lot bigger issues, and then they still hire those people. But it still was a little bit questionable. I didn't know if that was the energy to bring, even if I think Ron Washington as a GM or a manager was quite fine. I mean, he was great over in Texas. I just thought there were other options. I did not know Bob Melvin was just going to be available. And it's really crazy, like what you mentioned before about, they pick up the option, then he's just kind of, he's just there and it just happens out of nowhere. That's what's that's the part I can't understand. I heard every San Diego Union Tribune, The Athletic, MLB.com, heck, Gaslamp, whatever I want to shout out, everybody that I've talked to, there was like 97 candidates that people have brought up. Ozzie Guillen's name, they interviewed him last week. And then all of a sudden, it's like, we went for Bob Melvin. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot to think about, but that's my personal first thing. And also, yes, we could use some outfielders. You want to take?
Okay.
We'll give you a Will Myers expiring and a prospect maybe. And
Probably not.
Well, I'm not just going to end it at that. I'm just saying, like, maybe. I mean, Will Myers is not a terrible player. He's like slightly.
They're not adding payroll. They're not doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
My guess is that maybe, I don't know if the asking price would be met, but Bob Melvin does like Ramon Laureano quite a bit. And so that could be a nice pairing, a nice fit as a trade target. You guys have got some good prospects too. I don't know.
Grisham for Laureano straight up.
Ooh, probably not, because the window of contention's not there. Yeah. They'd probably want to go a little bit younger, maybe single A, double A, maybe. I think they're probably going to want
the big one.
Yeah, they'd probably want their next window of contention to be hopefully when the new ballpark opens in 4 years. We don't know when it's going to open, but if it's in Oakland, probably looking at 4 or 5 years, and then aiming for that window. And this is hopefully the last rebuild we got to go through, but assuming that there is a rebuild, because this isn't necessarily a promising sign, and there were reports that Bob Melvin was not happy, and you can only imagine that is being a manager for your hometown team, and with a pretty good group of players, you can't imagine that he wasn't happy with the job. It had to be that the direction that they were going to be going this offseason, and so it's going to be a long winter, but lots of content coming your way from Locked On A's. I joked in our group chat. Man. I joked in our group chat that every week I'm just going to be talking. I'm going to have 5 guests on from 5 different shows. We're going to be doing crossovers. It's like, all right, make me your pitch on Matt Olson, and then that's 1 week, and then the next week it's Matt Chapman.
It's a good idea.
Maybe we make a trade. It could be a good time.
You should do like
everybody wants to do crossovers.
You should do the background. People who are seeing our background, you should do like the Storage Wars thing, and then you could have someone in the background. All right, we got Clint Frazier and Miguel Andujar from the Yankees. We got like get like a really crazy auction going or whatever.
That would be a wild like Friday episode crossover. I do 4, and then I just start calling out. That would be so much fun. Do we have the capabilities of doing a crossover like that? With can we have 5 people?
2 people? Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Okay,
that'd be fun.
That's a fantastic idea,
that one, man. Take that one.
Hey, if you're on Locked On A's and you want to see that happen, I will figure out how to get a 5-box thing on here for your screens. Let us know in the comments.
Absolutely.
Also, make sure to follow both of our shows, Locked On Padres, Locked On A's, on YouTube. Comment, like, subscribe, do all the things that you need to do down there. But we got some more coming up here on this special crossover for you. It's not a special crossover for me. This is a terrible, terrible crossover, regardless of who I'm talking to. But we gotta take one quick little break here, and that's because we are back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season, and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is your #1 spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just enter the promo code Locked On for your welcome bonus. That is code Locked On. That is one word, all caps, Locked On. I don't know why I did this. Separated. It's together. Locked On. From basketball, football, baseball, postseason. We only got a few more games left in the postseason and in the baseball season in general. So get your bets in there. They also got the NHL, boxing, and UFC, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games. Do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. And that's because BetOnline is where the game starts. That's all I got.
Yes, sir. Flip the script, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
The script has been flipped. Not a fan.
Look, man, and it's been a
I'm
while
looking forward to the move for you, honestly. Yeah.
What happened?
I'm looking forward to this addition for the Padres. They're a team that I don't dislike and arguably like quite a bit. So when good people go there, especially from my team, I have no problem wishing them success. So it sucks as an A's fan, But as a baseball fan who likes seeing good things happen to good people, this is a great move for Bob Melvin. And I totally understand why he would want to leave the A's to go to San Diego and have a much better shot, probably with how things are going to be going this winter, at getting that World Series championship. So good job for Bob Melvin.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned that, like, you mentioned on Twitter, like, you were like, hey, if it's going to be a team, the Padres, like, it's very, look, I mean, I say this as the Padres host, so it comes off as being like, of course you're going to say this, but like, they really were, like, when they're at their best, they're like one of the most exciting teams in the game. I'd argue still the most exciting with all the players they had. I mean, there's a reason why. It'd been a while since I was able to proudly display any Padres gear. You know what I mean? I'm finally excited that I get to do something. You know what I'm saying? Because this is basically only going to be it. I thought it was going to be like Gold Glove, Silver Slugger stuff. That's what I thought it was going to be. But instead it was at least for the immediate future. And instead it's funny because the only thing that I called was, you know, and I actually shout out to the person who did tweet at me on Twitter, who was like, yeah, well, Locked On Padres is still going. I see that some of you only like doing content when they're good, but he's still going at it or whatever. And I was like, thank you, man. I mean, I've been miserable on the show and, you know, becoming the Joker more and more, but like, thank you. I mean, but it's a good point where my basic call was, I don't think people realize that there was really a high chance that there's going to be a lot happening this offseason. I mean, the Padres are getting rid of a lot of people. They got rid of their farm director, their pitching coach. They brought in the guy from Cleveland, Ruben Tiebla. Hold on. Is that the right name? I am blanking on the name right now. It's Ruben. I know it's Ruben. I apologize. I'll try and find it.
Mr. Ruben.
Mr. Ruben. Hey, you ever seen Ocean's 11? Ruben, man. For Ruben. So he's great. And it's like, that's already just the beginning. We haven't even gotten into the winter meetings and all that stuff. Everybody on Padres Twitter has been like, they're ready to just burn him at the stake. AJ Preller right now. Like they've turned on him so fast. And in fairness, there is warrant. In fairness, there is a good amount of warrant. My thing with him is that my take was he basically needs to do what happened in 2015, which is he has to reload. He loves firing, you know, the entire chamber and everything. He loves unleashing the entire magazine clip with that, even if there might not be enemies in sight, apparently. Sometimes he just goes for it. You know, search and destroy, Call of Duty. He fires all over the place. And sometimes you get a triple kill and it's great, like your Tatis trades. And then sometimes it's a little bit of with guys like, you know, I mean, Snell, with the exception of the last month, which I actually don't think was a fluke. I'm hopeful with Blake Snell, but like Darvish and a lot of these guys giving up 31 players for 9 players in total, you have to hope that they all hit, and not all of them did. But the bottom line is he did this in 2015 too. He absolutely blew up a lot of the farm system, traded for Myers. That was bad. Traded for Matt Kemp. That was bad. Traded for Justin Upton. That was bad. He was good, but that was bad. Craig Kimball, very good. All that stuff, right? But then he reloaded. He makes the James Shields for Tatis trade. The Grisham trade is at minimum a stalemate right now, in my opinion. I think that at least I still think Grisham has potential, although I'm worried about him. But that's the thing, is I thought we're going to have a lot to talk about. Even if there's nothing that happens, that'll still be something to talk about. I think that the Padres are clearly showing that they're going to do a lot. They know this ownership group, like, they spent a lot of money this past year. And I think people sometimes forget. Like, they know they spent it at Machado and Tatis, but like their payroll is massive. And that's not who the Padres are. They are trying to change their team. And I do credit ownership. They're not perfect in every area, like with minor leaguers and whatnot. But when it comes to the style, the culture that they're trying to, you know, kind of create here with the Padres, it's that they want to make it a thing. Maybe they saw the Chargers leave and they were like, great, screw you guys. We're going to step in and make this San Diego is going to be only Padres stuff, because there's a little bit of a vacancy there now. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. They're earning decent revenue. They have a decent population. So maybe that's what they're trying to, you know, go for. And right now it's really exciting. I like this move. Now, it's not the be all and end all as if they signed a great player or if they traded for a great player. Those are the AJ Preller to kill me. Oh, don't get me wrong. Do I have to do one of my AJ Preller please kill me monologues? I don't know if I have to do one yet, Jason.
For me, again, not super plugged into the Padres, but for me on the outside, it looked like the Padres dealt with just a huge amount of injuries. So I was like, yeah, that's why they're not doing so well right now, is because most of their team is just hurt or playing hurt and not up to the expectations. And so for me, that doesn't go on the GM. But to each fan base their own. Am I completely off base on that? Or is it were they just not playing great before the injuries too?
It's injuries combined with just a lot of people underperforming. I think that it's hard though, because literally everybody underperformed with the exception of Musgrove, Tatis, Machado, and that's it. And Jay Cronenworth. Like it was basically those four guys, and then Mark Melancon, I guess you could say, as their reliever. But then everybody, it wasn't just like, I mean, Hassan Kim couldn't hit. Trent Grisham got worse this year. Tommy Pham, worst batter among the 5 worst batters in baseball with runners in scoring position, which makes me want to jump off a cliff. I was like, what are you doing? His WRC plus with nobody on base this year was like 120, or like, no, not 120. That maybe not that high, but it was like 110 or something like that. You know what it was with nobody? It was like 37 with runners in scoring position. I was like, what are you doing, Tommy Pham? And it was like,
he would fit right in with the A's.
There was a lot of stuff. You had the Darvish thing. You know, everybody talks about the sticky stuff. So it was health things. Some people say Darvish had some back stuff. In that case, guys, put him on the IL. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? I think it's a mixture of both things. The thing about the Padres, though, is I said this heading into last year, which got me some credit from fans, which was, you know, they have some pieces. And you can look at 2021 or 2022, I should say now, and say, maybe they were so bad that there's going to be at least a regression to maybe 87 wins, 88 wins, which isn't like great. And it's certainly a little bit disappointing given the kind of the aspiration that the team had. But that shows you already that it's like they're not an awful baseball team. This is not Miami. Yeah. This is not, the Angels. This is not one of those teams. Like there's still a lot of stuff here, and it's a team trying to win now. So there's definitely a lot of hope for the future.
And to that point, one guy that usually gets the most out of their team and helps them overachieve is Bob Melvin. So that is a very, very nice addition. Maybe you go from 87 to 90 by hiring a manager, and then you get, a little bit better health, maybe a couple of pieces here. Could be a 95, 97 win team that would hopefully be Atlanta enough to make
like that. I think that we have to remember
the division is going to be the biggest impediment. I think.
Yeah.
How much do the Giants actually go all the way in because they've got an entire starting rotation hitting free agency. Yeah. But the Dodgers are going to be good. But
it's going to be a fun offseason. A lot better than this past offseason, by the way. And I'm saying that as someone who my team was like the star of last offseason, but there's so many guys in free agency. A lot deeper of a pool. You might not have that like George Springer guy, but then you still got Freddie Freeman. You got even Adam Duvall's kind of interesting. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of guys all over the place that I think teams will be looking for. It's true though. It's true. I think that with the manager, you could be looking at that. But my thing is this, guys. I say this over and over again, but it's like baseball's stupid. Like a lot of dumb things happen in baseball where it's like, how the heck did the Cardinals who their big moves at the trade deadline? What did they do, Jason? J.A. Happ and John Lester. And then what happens? They win 18 games in a row. Sometimes there's like this almost like arbitrary BS that happens seemingly in baseball sometimes. Look at Atlanta. No one thought they'd be this far, and they're in the World Series now. They lose Acuna. They lose Marcel Ozuna, who should never be allowed on a baseball field again. They lose Mike Soroka after a setback with his injury. They lose somebody else that I'm forgetting. It's just. Did I say
was it Ynoa? No, it was Oscar Ynoa.
Punches a bench. It was just like a total season from hell from them. And then they're in the World Series. So like, why can't that happen for the Padres? I know why Padres fans are pessimistic about it because they don't develop their pitchers well. Their offensive department is a little bit different, but for pitching, they don't develop it well. It is the Padres. After all, people don't have as much faith for them to figure things out and get the best out of their players. But this is a nice move that I did not expect. I thought my biggest fear was a no-name guy who AJ Preller knew from, college or from Texas Rangers or whatever the heck. Like, I didn't want to go through that again. This shows he was like, no. We're going big game hunting. I've heard some of the criticisms. No, I want to bring in a guy. How will they let him just do? We'll have to see how that plays out. But in terms of the thinking, in terms of the immediate moment, it's just a nice piece. It's a nice start considering we haven't even gotten to the winter meetings yet.
And for the A's, I have no idea who they're going to go after. I guess we'll see what the list looks like.
Fire sale?
I assume so. That should be fun. I'm looking forward to turning into the Locked On Orioles podcast. I'm going to be reaching out for lots of tips on how to get through an entire season.
It'll be really fun. Like the offseason. Then the regular season is going to come in. And you're going to be like,
yeah,
oh God, 20 games in. This is
like, hey, let's talk about the Las Vegas Aviators. This should be fun. Yeah. But I think that Mark Kotsay is at least going to be interviewed. He's been Bob Melvin's bench coach for the last few years. He'll be at least be interviewed unless some weird things happen. And so right now in my head, he's probably the front runner because I don't know who else they would necessarily consider because it's going to be a rebuild project. I've seen, a lot of fans clamoring for Ron Washington. You mentioned his checkered history in the past, but maybe he's the right guy for a rebuild because he likes teaching the fundamentals of baseball. But at the same time, is he the right guy at his age for a rebuild? Or do you want to see him get a team that's closer to contention? Or is he allowed to get one of those teams? So we'll see on that regard. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who the A's go with because Bob Melvin's been here for a while now. He's been through 2 contending teams or core teams with the Josh Donaldson, Brandon Moss, Sean Doolittle era in 2012 through 2014, and then this last one from 2017 to 2020. So yeah, it's been a while since they've had was it Ken Maka was the last one? Somebody will check me in the comments on that. But yeah, Ken Maka, potentially the last manager. I'm not counting 2006 because that was 1 year. That actually had a run of postseason appearances for the A's. I'm going to look that up. You talk for a second. I'm going to look that up real quick.
Hey man, I would love to talk. I'm feeling so happy right now. I mean, I literally just texted my friends because when I'm in a good mood, I don't become a jerk trash talker. I become a clear, I become a bit. You know what I mean? I become a bit of myself where I'm texting friends, Kyler Murray, a fraud, just for no reason. I don't know why. He's very, very good. It's just that they lost. So now I'm just talking so much nonsense. And it's not even, I'm look, I have obviously, but it becomes a bit for me where I'm just going to just say all this dumb stuff. Yeah, man. I mean, AJ Preller, I mean, Jason, can I do it? Can I do it?
Yeah, do it.
AJ Preller, I want you to take the energy sword from Halo and slash me to ribbons and then use my bones as ammunition for your medieval catapult and then launch it towards Dodgers headquarters. AJ Preller is somewhat back. He's somewhat back for now. I love the man. I haven't been able to do I hope he kills me moment in a while. Lately, that's been result more with my quarterback in football lately. But AJ Preller, I just think that this is a nice bounce back. And it is a great example for Padres fans to remember it's not over yet. It's just not over yet. It was a really, really bad season, and it's going to be hard. But, hey, man, no one ever said it would be easy. And guess what? The Dodgers lost, so who cares? They spent $500 gajillion, which is probably going to be the next
money. Yeah,
they probably spent as much of the budget for the next Avengers movie with Kang the Conqueror, whoever that's going to be the villain, and they lost to who they lose to Atlanta. They lost to Atlanta, right? Yeah, they lost to Jock Peterson.
It was 4 days ago.
No, I forgot for a sec. They lost to Jock Peterson and everything. Great.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Dodgers are better known the last decade for losing every year in the playoffs, and we have to stop pretending that's
they're the Atlanta Braves of the 90s.
Exactly. Tampa Bay Rays are the same thing, by the way. Anyway, guys, Jason, before we wrap this up, do you have it? Look, great organizations, but I'm just saying, guys, let's just remember they haven't won a World Series yet. The Dodgers did, I know, last year in a truncated season, but I'm just saying, win one. Just win one. That's all I'm asking for.
Also,
anyway,
great podcast hosts over at Locked On A's with Ulysses and the other one. So shots fired, Kevin Weiss.
My dude. Jason, do you have any final questions or thoughts before we wrap this up?
Best of luck to Bob Melvin, and Locked On A's is going to have lots of things to talk about, so make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, Jason. You must subscribe to Locked On A's. It is a great podcast. I tune in. Jason's very good. I like the little sound bites at the beginning and whatnot. And as always, guys, thank you for making Locked On Padres and Locked On A's your first listen every day. Jason, you got any cool upcoming episodes? I know you're going to be talking about this Bob Melvin stuff, I imagine, but you got any special stuff? You got any teasers you want to get out there?
I had been doing, I had on Monday, I explained the Rule 5 draft and the guys that would be coming off of the roster and how many spots were going to be available for the guys that would be Rule 5 eligible. And I had planned on doing that for tomorrow's episode. But then this happened. And also now it looks like there's going to be a lot more spots opened up after the A's do a full fire sale. So I don't know that it matters anymore.
Yeah, I feel that,
so
man. For my
words,
podcast,
I'll probably be speculating and looking at a bunch of prospects. And there is one guy that I know that is great at prospects as well.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I've heard of him for sure, guys. That's a good transition, Jason. Thank you so much. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB Prospects, which is hosted by Arm Layton, and he is a prospect encyclopedia. I call him a prospect freak, but encyclopedia is a nicer word, I guess you could say. And he's going deep on all the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available on all platforms. There's my podcast. A lot of crossovers planning, unless the Padres do something crazy, which I don't think they will, at least for the next week, but you never know. But we'll be doing that stuff. We'll be talking with Jeff Ellis of Locked On Indians about some Ruben stuff, the Ruben table stuff. Rebla, dang it. I am awful for not remembering this man's name. Nibla. I think it's Nibla. Anyway, I'm going to stop before I keep digging my own grave. Also going to be talking Ford, who's the former host of Locked On Angels, going to be hopefully getting that sometime next week, talking about book stuff, because books are good. I'm reading one right now. I don't know about you, Jason. It's called Sophomores. It's really good. Ooh, I tweeted a thing about how the character yells at his son for saying he's a Dodgers fan, which I appreciated very much. So that's really a lot of fun. Bunch of crossovers, bunch of content, and there's still a World Series going on. So baseball, guys, it is still good, even if it doesn't always love you back. And with that all being said, that about does it for today's edition of the Locked On Padres and Locked On A's podcast. The best pods, better than the teams themselves sometimes, if we're being perfectly honest with you. We're free and available on all platforms, of course. Yeah. Follow me on Twitter at Javapeno, JAVIIPENO, and also at LO_Padres. LO_Padres. It's a Twitter account, obviously, for the show. And then Jason by Jason B, which, for the record, both elite Twitter handles, in my opinion. I think we're both doing pretty good with that. And then, of course, Locked On A's for the Twitter. And both of us on YouTube, going to be in the description of the podcast, guys. And until next time, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies, take care.
It's Ruben Nibla.